Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you're at in the world. Happy today. Welcome to Proof of Work. I am your host, Jerry V, and my co-host, as usual, is my producer, Nick. And
Hi, Jerry.
today's and welcome. And today's episode is called BIP. What's the deal? We're gonna learn about what the whole the Bitcoin Improvement Protocol 110 is about. And then we're going to talk about probably the Clarity Act and talk about why I think all of crypto is about to go super nuts. And we have a whole bunch of technical and fundamental signals coming through at all levels. Anyway, let's thank our sponsors first. Let's thank Quantum Expeditions. If you don't know what QE is doing, QE originally is quantum economics. If you want to sign up to be one of their analysts or one of their experts, you can do that at their website. But they also then expanded into Bitcoin mining a few years back, and they started Quantum Expeditions, and they realized that they can take stranded energy, which I keep telling everyone on the planet, me and Daniel Batten, right? Wasted energy is somewhere between a 10 and $20 trillion market cap. That's insane amounts of money that is just being thrown away. And teams like this, like Quantum Expeditions and other companies across the globe, sniff wasted energy out like methane flare. And then they do is they come along and they put a methane generator over top of it. They put that generator to work, and then all of a sudden they have all this power to generate ASIC miners and run those ASIC miners and mine Bitcoin. And now there's company like Mara and there's company like Terra and Canaan doing that with wind farms in West Texas. There's TEPCO doing it in Japan. So this is the future of energy. This is why I keep screaming from the mountaintops. Bitcoin is far superior as a technology than AI. I think AI will be very important for the development of Bitcoin, but I'm pretty sure that now that people see what I'm talking about, AI data centers have to offset some of their load with Bitcoin miners, and that will be, I think, become the future model in the future. Anyway, other sponsors, Shieldfolio. Sorry to ramble on for so long, but it's cool stuff. Basically, it's a seed phrase book that protects your words, right? You have to have a special UV light to read the seed phrase. It's waterproof, it's tear proof. And they are working on one that is going to be fireproof, and I am looking forward to that one myself. There is a QR code that should come up where you can just use, I think it's like Bitcoin Live 20, and that is correct. And you get 20% off a Shield Folio. And we'd like to thank all the team at Deorganized Media and everyone at the family of Bitcoin Live. And let's get into it. BIP-110. We have a really good video from Simply Bitcoin. We're just going to get into it with that. It should take up like 15 to 20 minutes, and let's just jump in.
Here we go. That's a nice one.
Bitcoin may change forever in just 25 days. And the threat isn't coming from the US government, China, a 51% attack, or quantum computers. It's coming from inside the Bitcoin community itself. There are two camps of Bitcoiners fighting about BIP-110, the monetary maximalists and the consensus purists. And as a result, Bitcoin might split into two chains. A fight that was happening in the background has suddenly exploded and come to the main stage. Everyone has an opinion, even Michael Saylor, who stayed silent on Bitcoin Core and Bitcoin development conversations thus far. He called it the Bitcoin latrogenic proposal, hinting at the fact that we might be hurting something that's working fine, as it is. This show is called Bitcoin Simply, and so my goal is to highlight some high-level points and point you to resources so you can dive deeper on the topic. Hopefully by the end of the video, you'll understand why block 961,632 matters so much to the future of Bitcoin. Why a number is so small as 0.6% can still flip the whole board. And why this has already happened to Bitcoin before, and it's going to make it stronger. This is Dante Cook of Bitcoin Simply. Let's go.
I don't want to put words in your mouth, but you said something along the lines of like, you feel like BIP-110 is doomed to fail, basically, or like you don't think it's going to actually work. Why is that?
Well, it doesn't have consensus. So there are a lot of comparisons to the block size wars and activation of SegWit, but there was major consensus that SegWit was the path forward for the network to fix the malleability bug and to enable Lightning. And it was just a few people blocking it for financial gain, personal gain, ASIC boost, and it was really more about the activation mechanism and activation timeline over the change itself. Whereas 110 and everything, it does not have consensus, especially amongst technical development experts, people that actually work on the software. And even outside of that, there are a lot of ordinary people using Bitcoin that don't agree with it either. So it's a very small group of people that really want to push this forward. And they can be very aggressive and nasty. So it's not a good combination for building consensus. And that is exactly what you need to do to get change in Bitcoin. But all of the technical arguments aside, I go back to you should not be forced to need to worry about something urgently for Bitcoin. Like, that's just not the case. Right now, 110 is popular, it's fashionable, people are rallying, a small group of people are rallying behind it, and I'll get blasted for everything I've said here because, if you're not on their side, you're their enemy.
Before we go any further into BIP-110, what it is, these fights that are happening online, that was a commentary from an interview from Samson Mow, who's fighting publicly with people like Luke Dash Jr., Bitcoin Mechanic, Matthew Crater, and others who are influential in Bitcoin circles. The drama surrounding this and why so many people are coming out vocally is that in just 25 days, roughly around block 961,632, there could be a signal to introduce a Bitcoin improvement proposal 110. And this all arose from some things that happened in October of 2025. When Bitcoin Core developers introduced a new version of Bitcoin, Core version 30, where the opportune data field that was capped at 83 bytes for over a decade is suddenly raised to 100,000. A few months ago, nobody deep in Bitcoin even knew what an op return was. They thought it was just millennials talking about their enemies, the new word op, that's my op. They had no idea what a freaking op return was, but now it's front and center because people are now starting to look at what's actually happening on chain and what's impacting nodes. Images, tokens, files, things that are not necessarily money are being stored on the Bitcoin blockchain forever. And this begs the question, wasn't Bitcoin designed as a protocol to be currency, to be money, not a file storage system? And there's some that fall in the camp of Bitcoin's natural fees in game theory will do what it can to the best extent that it can to limit spam by using fees. Some believe that this is contrary and attack to what Bitcoin's nature actually is. And so we need to introduce a protocol, a Bitcoin improvement proposal, BIP-110, that would allow a user-activated soft fork to signal to the network that we do not want these images, files, tokens, or anything else on the Bitcoin blockchain that is specifically supposed to be used for money. And there's an undercurrent going underneath of this entire conversation. Bitcoin Core developers used to be people that used to work on Bitcoin in their spare time, on the weekends at their house to contribute to Bitcoin. But now a lot of the Bitcoin Core developers are backed and their salaries are paid and provided for by large corporations that have incentives and interests that do not align with the Bitcoin node operators and runners who want to keep Bitcoin as money. But it begs the question, is Bitcoin just a protocol to transmit currency or potential currency, Satoshis, or is it a internet protocol? Is it a network? Before we go any further, let's thank our sponsors. Ledin, the leader in Bitcoin-backed loans. If you don't want to give up your Bitcoin or sell your Bitcoin and have a capital gain or a capital loss, well, you can borrow against it with none of the effects. You post Bitcoin to the Ledin platform and they give you up to 50% of the fiat value of that in less than 6 hours. No capital gains at half the rate that you could have for a credit card. No credit checks, and you can pay it off and repay at any time. They've issued over $10 billion worth of loans to tens of thousands of customers and never lost a single cent or Satoshi of anyone's money. Work with Ledin. Don't sell your Bitcoin. There's a large camp of people that are looking at the Core V30 and say that there didn't need to be consensus or a broad agreement amongst the Bitcoin network for Core V30 to be dropped. And so, acting independently, there have been a group of people who have introduced another fork or a different software implementation of Bitcoin called Bitcoin Knots. And these folks generally are the proponents of BIP-110. which is a 1-year soft fork that caps the data field, protects the UTXO set to be primarily monetarily focused, and it expires after 12 months. It doesn't need Core's blessing. Any node that wants to enforce it can. BIP-110 needs 50% of miners to activate, not the 95% that you saw with SegWit or Taproot in the past. This mandatory signaling can kick in at block 961,632 with no voting required. So on the side of proponents for BIP-110, my friend George Bodine does a great job of explaining BIP-110 in the perspective of the monetary maximalist and what it means to have nodes who can still control the network and not feel like the corporate miners and overlords are taking over.
Hey kids, today I want to address something I've been studying for quite a while, BIP-110. First off, my premise, where I'm coming from, is that Bitcoin is money. It is peer-to-peer electronic cash. And JPEGs of monkeys and pixelated dicks have no place on Bitcoin's blockchain. And that Core should have been fighting this battle for node runners, making it harder and more costly to use the blockchain for non-monetary data. In other words, creating friction and cost to spammers. BIP-110 tightens the rules, limits script pub keys to 33 bytes, caps op return at 83 bytes, bans long contiguous data, and it removes op-if and taproot scripts. Again, my node is not a Dropbox for memes or NFTs that force node runners to maintain for eternity at a cost to future generations who want to spin up a full node. Remember, in Bitcoin, nodes dictate the rules, not miners. Miners produce blocks. If those blocks violate node consensus, they're rejected as invalid. I was on the fence about BIP-110. My concerns revolved around the initial proposal. I think it was called 444, and then it morphed into RDTS. And I wanted to study the author of the BIP, Samson Mow, and I wanted to see how he handled criticism and if there was a willingness to listen and change the BIP. I wanted to know more about the BIP itself and whether it could work. I also wanted to know how it would run in tests. BIP-110 was recently run using mainnet data, about 5 million transactions. 5 million. It filtered 40% of non-monetary transactions. How many legitimate transactions did it block? Zero. It worked with Lightning, coin joins, and multisig. I now support BIP-110 fully. I'm running it on my node. I'm not going to stop running it, ever. It's just there, permanent. Just like knots. And BIP-110 is already winning. Over 1,000 nodes are enforcing it, more than during the SegWit activation. SegWit activation, BIP-148, was also a UASF, user-activated soft fork, just like BIP-110. BIP-148 forced the SegWit activation despite opposition from big miners, exchanges, some members of Core. Remember, nodes hold the power, not the miners. Hardcore maxis like me, we're an intolerant minority and we're flexing our muscles here. I don't believe this will be a chain split. Exchanges and miners will adapt because resisting means losing out. BIP-110 grandfathers old transactions, so no one's funds get locked out. And let me ask you this, why would anyone fight to keep dust transactions and spam in blocks? Did you know that a serious mining operation has to keep the entire blockchain in RAM, the fastest RAM they can get, in order to be competitive? This is a cost now, and it's going to be skyrocketing more and more as they compete with AI. There's no logical reason to fight for spam or dip-buck JPEGs kept on eternity on the blockchain. When I say I'm running BIP-110 on my node, I'm signaling with my node that I support this UASF. Every other node running it is doing the same thing. And we don't need that many nodes as an intolerant minority to win. If only a small percentage of nodes enforce BIP-110, the network tips in their favor because non-compliant blocks get ignored. Miners don't have the incentive to risk orphan blocks.
That's it for now.
If miners and exchanges signal early, this will be successful very quickly. It will take very little time or very little hash rate from miners to activate this also. And what is the end game? First off, BIP-110's success will demonstrate again that nodes hold power, not miners. This solidifies Bitcoin as unbreakable money.
So although 0.6% of miners have signaled in their blocks that they want to do this, this can quickly snowball because there's some sort of game theory that says if my largest competitor can profit on a side chain or a separate chain, and also hurt my ability to have the longest chain on the core Bitcoin or current Bitcoin implementation, then I have incentive to switch to this new fork. But there's people like Samson Mow that disagree, that campaigning for something that the majority of Bitcoiners is in fact going against consensus and is damaging to the network overall. Let's hear what Samson has to say about it.
It's not that you have to flush the whole thing away. That's how altcoins are made. That's how Bcash was made. That it has to be this way. Bitcoin has to be used in a certain way, or else it's failed. Like, again, we've heard that time and time again in the past, right? Over and over, either authentically or inauthentically as a reason to create a fork and profit from that too. But your other point about the ordinals people, like I've said it publicly, like ordinals are a joke. They were always going to die. And yeah, like, of course they have an incentive, but I don't know if restricting data would stop that incentive. It would make it more difficult for them, but they can always work around it. And the benefit of scamming is far higher than whatever fees would be prohibitive to prevent you from putting data into Bitcoin.
Mm-hmm. Okay,
I mean, that's
interesting.
their
It might
whole
be-
economic model, right? They made more scamming people into ordinals than they paid in fees, but they still made money
Sure.
scamming people.
Yeah. I don't think that's something that can be solved with Bitcoin software. The fact that people are going to try to scam other people, that I don't think we can program that one out of humanity with software exactly. But that's interesting. I guess my last question is: so why related to BIP-110? It's a RDTS, right? So reduced data temporary soft fork. So why is it temporary? And if it is temporary and there is a chain split, what happens after the temporary, soft fork ends?
Well, it's going to just create a fork, a minority fork with low hash rate. And then I don't know. I haven't thought that far ahead because it's not a priority to me. And it should not be a priority to me. Like, who are you to tell me that something's happening in what? I don't even know the day. What day is it that they're going to fork off?
I think it's like 28 days from now. So like 25 days from when this releases or something.
Yeah. So who are you to tell me that there's going to be a fork in 28 days?
The Bitcoin way will teach you exactly what a Bitcoin node is. We've been talking about this Bitcoin improvement proposal, signaling your interest for running BIP-110. Well, what does that even mean? Members of the Bitcoin way will walk you through exactly what that means and why running a node is important. It's one of the core foundations of Bitcoin in that the users do still have the power to control what they run and how their money is governed. Schedule a free 30-minute meeting with the team at thebitcoinway.com/partner/Dante-Cook. This argument isn't just a technical one. It's an emotional one. And emotions are rising really high right now. In fact, they're at a fever pitch. One of the articles that's tipping the scales and blowing up in the Bitcoin circles right now is one by Jason Hughes, who's one of the lead developers of the Ocean Mining Protocol, one of the main platforms and contributors to decentralizing Bitcoin mining from the large pools, which control the majority of the hash rate so that they cannot 51% attack Bitcoin. Because although in hardware, Bitcoin is decentralized, in software, it is not. And so being one of the core developers at Ocean Mining means that his boss, Luke Dashjr, one of the founders, and a core teammate, Bitcoin Mechanic, are one of the vocal people for BIP-110. But this article, he publicly disagrees. Not only does he say that he doesn't believe that it's going to happen, that the probabilities of it passing are between 5 and 15%. He says that it's a silly way to deal with the problem of spam, which will never go away. The incentive for spammers is always going to be greater than the costs implemented against spammers, which is why JP Morgan continues to commit fraud all across the world. The amount of profit that they make from the fraud that they do all across the world does not equal the cost and the expenses that they have to pay from the fines that they get for committing those frauds. This is what the side of the camp that is leaning towards not going with BIP-110 is saying. Spam will always exist, and the game theory of the Bitcoin network should be strong enough to disincentivize the majority of spam naturally. We don't have to introduce a soft fork that could introduce other risks to Bitcoin. And this is why Michael Saylor said it's a latrogenic proposal. The infighting, the actual need or desire to change might actually be the biggest enemy to Bitcoin itself. If you rely on a system to do one thing, then you have to take the good with the bad. When you have a system built that generates random letters and numbers to issue a license plate for a person or an individual uniquely, well, you have to live with the fact that sometimes it can spit out the license plate that says squeeze ass to a 77-year-old woman.
I don't think a woman that lives in a senior community that's going to be 77 years old next month will be driving around with what this plate has to say.
If you want the system to randomly generate letters and numbers, then you might have to live with the fact that you could get a squeeze plate. And if you live with a system that is an open protocol that allows anyone anywhere to download it, to use it, then you might have to live with the fact that there's going to be spam on it. The internet wasn't originally built to do all of the things that we do today. It wasn't built as a means of AI generating fake and random images and memes about stuff that we all love, like a guy getting hit in the air by a bison. All sorts of memes are coming out of that. That was not the original intention of the internet. Yet here we are with these bison ads. The air bisons are, I'm going to buy them if they come out with the upside dude down, flipped upside down. Anyways, that's not the point. Point is, something good that you want everyone to use in the world might have some bad consequences. But that doesn't mean that you should not fight, voice your opinion, and stand up, which is what the Bitcoin knots and BIP-110 proponents are doing. But these sorts of fights aren't new to Bitcoin. We've seen this before with the block size wars. Miners and venture-backed companies push for bigger blocks, but the small blocks won. The node runners. Bitcoin Cash split away from Bitcoin, and we've all seen what's happened with that. There's fear and uncertainty into all of these things, but Bitcoin is a network that grows and learns and gets better over time, even with volatility. So where do I land? Hard to tell. I want to hear your thoughts and comments. Hard for me as a guy with a platform like mine to give an honest opinion about what I think to people that I don't really know. One thing that I do know about things like these is sometimes pigs love to get muddy more than you want to get dirty. So be careful about what fights you jump into. One thing I do want to caution the Bitcoin community against is while, like Kali BTC says, we're arguing about the BIP-110 proposal, well, the people out there, the fiat currency overlords, are preparing an even bigger stablecoin network, which poses a much bigger threat than spam on the blockchain, in my opinion. So where are we really focusing our energy? Bitcoin will get better and will get better. I stand with all of my friends on both sides of the aisle. And in 25 days, block 961,632, we're going to see what's going to happen. Despite there only being 0.6% of miner signaling in blocks that they're for BIP-110, I believe that there's a much higher, greater and possibility that BIP-110 can be passed. And the user-activated soft fork will get activated. But let me know what you think down below. You a core, knots, 110 proponent? Love to hear. This is Dante Coca, Bitcoin Simply. And if you've heard a little bit about Bitcoin mining, but you're like, I'll leave all that active.
Cut it there. So I watched that video from the elder node runner. I forget his name. I saw it like maybe like a month ago. That's why I was like, this is a great video because it's got like both sides, like very good perspectives from both sides. And I'm kind of in agreement with Dante, right? Like I can see it from both perspectives and I can understand that spam is always going to be a problem. But if we just, listen to just Satoshi's own words, right, from the Satoshi Nakamoto Institute, right? The Bitcoin network might actually reduce spam by diverting zombie farms to generating Bitcoins instead. So the whole reason Satoshi designed Bitcoin is to convince people to run away from spam, right? Because it's not as profitable. And we already know this is the case, right? We have study after study over the last, I think 5 years showing that this is the case, that these huge, spam operations, whether they're mobile spam farms or they're these huge, almost like server farms that are out there that are just kicking out, whether it's, and I always tell people, whether it's legitimate business or they're just trying to, the Nigerian prince scam, whatever it is, over the last 5 or 10 years, these people have been taking their compute power and moving it to proof of work protocols because it is generating them more income. This is partially one of the reasons people don't understand, some of these protocols, currencies are just hovering and, just been draining out for the last almost year or so. And that's partially to do it is you have these spammers that are joining the protocol that have no loyalty to that coin or token, right? They have zero loyalty to it. So they scoop up this crypto and they convert it into stable coins, and eventually they will get caught. And then just like Iran's Tron got the kibosh put on it, the same thing will start happening to these spammers that will eventually realize, well, I can just hold this currency and it can't be stopped, right? If I just hold the Litecoin, or if I just hold the Monero or hold the Bitcoin, and these are types of networks I trust. Not I the one thing I don't like about Monero is when they do updates, the people that run some of their wallets,
Yeah.
they don't feel like doing the updates, and it becomes very problematic to hold XMR. Like, perfect example, and again, problems I've had with multiple chains that I've never had with Litecoin and
Bitcoin.
Dogecoin. No, Bitcoin I've had problems with, but that's because of user error, I should say, mostly. But yeah, I mean, and we can see this. We and again, we have evidence of what I'm talking about, right? We have it in the Iranian government, right, where
Yeah.
they have no loyalty. All that Bitcoin mining they were doing, what were they doing? They were waiting till it goes up like 10%. They're like, dumb, and then they buy a whole bunch of Tron USDT on TRX, right? Like, so
But then
that's
they
why the
come
Tron
around.
network's been blowing up, right? Because people are start using it is a little bit cheaper. But go ahead, sorry to cut you off.
Yeah, I mean, and then Iran sort of made an 180 and say that their shipping toll booth should be paid in Bitcoin, right? I mean,
Oh yeah, because now they get it. They
Yeah.
get it. And that just proved my whole
Yeah.
theory right there, right? Like, you just full circle proved the theory that now people are going to start hodling these underlying protocols coins. And that's why proof of work networks are important, because they can't be gamed, right? As easily as an Ethereum, or easily with some of these smart contracts on Solana, as easily as some of these smart contracts on the BSC chain, right, et cetera, et cetera. And what I've seen over the last 10 years of being an analyst in this space is that the new protocol comes along, and then all the scammers run to it, because it has like either has really cheap fees to build on, or it has really cheap fees for transactional, or both. And that's where they go to, because then it costs them almost nothing to go continue doing their
And
spamming, or their their scamming, et cetera, et cetera.
and that's the whole ticket, right? I mean, if something is new, then everybody sort of gravitates towards it. So all the victims that they are looking for are on over there, right? So
Yeah.
I
And it,
want to highlight this article from Steve from the Organized Media. He actually did
yeah.
a whole piece on the BIP-110.
Oh, nice, 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 nice.
And I think in the sort of opening paragraph, he lays it out. Says, read the case for BIP-110 closely, and you notice one word carrying almost all of it. It's spam. The proposal's own language leans on it. Data abuse, the spam way of protecting Bitcoin from spam. But strip the word out, and the argument has to make itself on its own terms, which is a much harder thing to do, because stop the spam cells and ban the transactions I dislike does not.
Yeah. It's very true. It's a very true statement. And that's why it's like I said, I can see it from both sides, where it's almost a futile attempt, because people will figure out a way around it. I think there's more important BIPs out there that should be passed, but that's just my own personal take. But this is the whole reason Satoshi built this protocol, is to reduce spam, right? So that anyone that's against it, you're kind of like anti Satoshi's own vision. I know he wants it to be a monetary protocol, but at the same time, he's embedded data into his own transactions before. So we know that people do this.
Chancellor
Yeah.
said Yeah.
Exactly, the original first transaction, exchequer
Yeah.
chancellor brink, banks on the brink, the London headline that's famous. So I mean, people have been using it for a low level communication tool as well, right? So let's be very clear. Stopping spam 100% is just ridiculous, but at the
And
same time, I understand where the hardcore maxis like. I don't have room for this. If I'm going to be a node runner, you're just bloating that that whole node with the whole chain and having to upload the whole chain. And as he's saying, for future generations to do that, it could take like weeks or months if we have X amount more of data per block. And I totally get that.
doesn't it also taint the Bitcoin that sort of get these additional information attached to them?
All right, say that one more time. Ask that one more time, please.
The tainting of the Bitcoin, right? Because with the ordinals and with these transactions, the inscriptions that are added, doesn't that also taint the Bitcoin itself? Make them less
Well,
fungible.
again, I mean, we all were in concurrent when ordinals. I think me and you were in concurrent, and all of the smart people in the room was like, "You want to waste your satoshis? Go right ahead. I'm not wasting sats." And that's what happened, where everyone convinced everyone like these were going to be the greatest and latest, greatest in things, and some people made money, but those were usually the people who were at the front of the line.
Actually,
And
I own one or two ordinals, so I shouldn't complain. But I'm for Bitcoin's neutrality. So I'm if you put a gun to my head and say which side are you on, I would be against BIP-110 because it sort of goes against the Bitcoin ethos, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's freedom of
And,
speech. If you want to pay for your dumb crap, and
but
that's the other side of the coin.
I understand the sentiment, right? I understand
Yeah.
where it comes from, but I don't like the way the discussion that they are doing the discussion, because it's very aggressive. It's very sort of you're for it or against it, and if you're not for it,
Well, it's just like BIP 420. I'm kind of against it, but at the same time, it makes a lot of sense on some regards, right?
Yeah.
Where we discussed this on the show, where it would make Bitcoin more Turing complete, and then it makes the Lightning Network like pew, 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 like super bulletproof. And that's very good. But then the other half is, people can do shit coins and meme coins and a whole array of other BS, and that's where it's like, yeah, I don't know, right? Like, because then we're going to just have all this side chain BS bloat. And it's like, I don't know if I want all that, right? So it's like a fine line, and it's like almost the same thing we're looking at here. It's like, do we want to tell people we're freedom money, or do we want to put limitations on that statement? Anyway, I think we've beat this thing to the ground a lot. I mean, I hope people understand what was going on, right? And I think simply Bitcoin, or Bitcoin simply, I always say it backwards, I think. Bitcoin simply. They do a good job of like breaking it down and showing both sides. What we're going to get into next is like the Clarity Act. We already have Senator Warren, and if anyone noticed, I put out like 10 tweets this week tagging her on this because I knew this was coming, right? Like, ahem. Japan just passed a crypto legislation. Russia just passed crypto legislation. So are we going to be, lagging now? Are we going to be like last place, or do you want to be first place? She thinks. Here's the one thing that I'm going to say before we watch this video. She doesn't understand that the Clarity Act stops President Trump and everyone doing all this wash trading and insider BS. That's a part of that bill. Ding, ding, ding. So she wants this stuff to stop with the Trumps making all this money off crypto. Pass the bill, you dummy. Roll clip.
Here we go.
1.4 billion. That's what Donald Trump made off cryptocurrency last year alone.
Proving my point. Oh, what the sound just went out. All right, it's got subtitles. Let it go.
Huh? No. Turn off my mic.
Now your sound went away. All right, you're back. Good.
Continue playing it, right?
Yeah. There's subtitles. If there wasn't subtitles, I'd be like, try and fix it. But people can read.
Yeah.
And I don't like her voice anymore. It annoys the ish out of me. So this is kind of like a blessing. Thank you, Lord. Amen.
So this is better?
Yeah, because she said her voice is so like grating to me now because it's so whiny. Easier for criminals. No, you dumb. It does the exact opposite. Oh my gosh. Maybe you should read the bill, dumb. Yeah, it's almost over. But proving my point, she never read the bill. She doesn't know what she's talking about when it comes to crypto. She doesn't have anybody in her team, like an analyst like me, that understands this stuff very well, technically, legally, etc. Again, like literally the Clarity Act stops all this wash trading. Like literally there's huge sections on wash trading and insider trading and all this stuff. And this would stop, not only obviously is Donald Trump doing this kind of crap, Binance, Coinbase, Kraken, they all say they don't do it. F off. You all do it. We've seen your trades, dummies. We've seen the trades. I've shown the trades. Like, here's Coinbase buying all this Bitcoin on Monday, right? And selling it at a 20% pump on Friday. Like, don't tell me you're not playing the Bitcoin slide game. Even we got Saylor figuring it out, right? Like, come on. We know how it works. It just doesn't work for the little guy anymore because you got to be doing like, 5 to a couple hundred Bitcoin, and then you can play the game. And once countries start figuring this out, whoa, like I tell people, this is why Iran's saying, yeah, we want Bitcoin. Sorry, F stable coins now, right? Because stable coins can be frozen, Bitcoin cannot. And what do we hear the other day? The president Putin saying, oh, Bitcoin can't be stopped. You can't stop us anymore, America. We have Bitcoin. Screw you.
And the Wolf of Wall Street also did Malcolm also did a really good one. I forgot who he interviewed, but basically his guest pointed out that Democrats were sort of pushing it to the limit, right, to get as much out of this negotiation as they can. So they're pushing the deadline in order to get for maximum leverage in order to get their wants. So I think that makes a lot of sense. But I think they're voting on Monday. Was it Monday or something?
Voted on Monday for
the Clarity Act. I think the 27th.
Oh, I've heard that for so many times. I've heard like this day, that day, this. I don't believe anything anymore because they're BS artists. But since we're talking about that, I'm going to send you this first because I saw Ivan post this and I didn't get to look into it, but he's a really smart programmer, and I figured we just glance at it really quickly before we get into this clarity stuff, because it is in relation to BIP-110. He basically says, BIP 361 is greater than BIP-110, and I guess BIP 361 is it will help, I guess, make Bitcoin quantum resistant. So I get where he's going with that, where that's more important than BIP 110 itself. But again, I've stated this already. There's multiple teams working on this. Aqua's own wallet is already quantum resistant. So people who are all like, sky's falling, no, it's not. We have some of the best developers in the world that work on Bitcoin and work on Bitcoin projects, right? So it's not the sky's not falling. Yes, Russia's parliament passes crypto market law with 3,800 annual cap for retail investors. What? The citizens still cannot use Bitcoin to buy groceries. The Kremlin is officially letting companies use digital tokens to bypass sanctions and other global trade hurdles. To me, again, the president's coming out saying you can't stop Bitcoin transactions. Let me just repeat that to the president of Russia who just said that the other day. You can't stop Bitcoin transactions. So the Kremlin saying they're not allowing Bitcoin transactions. That's insanity, bro. You just said you can't stop Bitcoin. Let me repeat it. You can't stop Bitcoin, bro. You can't. Sorry. So the people want to buy groceries. It's really simple. That grocery store puts up a QR code. They scan the QR code. They see the check mark and the confirmations. Bye. Have a great day. Take care. Thanks for paying with Bitcoin. Oh, I thought Kremlin said they were going to stop that. Oh, you can't stop that. Nice try, though.
So even in Russia, they're sort of misinformed, or
Again, that's just the media, like just being the media, right? They're dumb and stupid, like as we all know. So the next thing we are going to talk about is obviously the Clarity Act. But here's the first thing. As I said to you pre-show, this is from Watcher Guru. Justin Goldman Sachs CEO says it's time to pass the Clarity Act. And then right in the same feed, when I was like doing research this morning, I see this one from our man, Mr. Kramer. So Clarity Act about probability of Clarity Act after you share the next tweet goes up to 85%. I'm just saying, like, I don't know if anyone's got a Kalshi, but it just went up a lot. In my opinion, it's over 80% probability because now we got Jim Cramer going, Clarity Act will never pass. Thank you, Jim. Thank you, Jim, so much. You just slam dunked it in for us now that it will get passed. When, I can't say, but it's going to get passed. And the main reason it's getting passed is because of that first tweet. The banks are ready, right? The whole reason, like we just said this meeting show, it's not the banks don't like crypto. It's because the banks didn't pack their bags, right? They didn't buy enough Bitcoin, Ethereum, XRP, whatever their whatever they're into, whatever their analysts told them to buy, which is pretty much, like I said, I think everything's coming back, and we'll get into that in a moment. But the banks just didn't pack their bags. Now their bags are packed. Yes, pass the Clarity Act. So the markets can go off to Jupiter and beyond, and then the banks will start being like, oh my gosh, sell. And the coolest thing about all of this, and this is going to be so hilarious but so true, because here's a crypto oracle prediction, is when one of these banks does some of this shady-ish that Iran did, right? They do it, and they're like, oh yeah, oh, you have all this tether on Tron? Oh, we just seized it. Thanks.
yeah.
And that's when that bank will go, we just stick to Bitcoin and proof of work chains. Yeah. Because there will be entities and digital financial institutions that will make these distinctions in the next 5 or 10 years. Again, do I think Ethereum goes nuts? Of course it will, because Tom Lee's buying a shit ton of it right now. Right? He's not an idiot. But at the same time, like I said, Ethereum's game theory isn't there. They've gone to some kind of crazy hybrid proof of stake model that, in my opinion, at scale, it starts to like literally become this like huge fishnet where your money can get trapped in there and entities can figure out ways into that net and take your money out. And money can get trapped in that net and then it's lost forever. And again, I've had way less problems with Litecoin and Bitcoin and Dogecoin, and I've had tons of problems with anything that runs the Ethereum virtual machine, especially over longer time frames, right? Where smart contracts break, Protocols won't run zero knowledge proof, right? So you're running on L2s that run these op rollups that are very problematic. I've shown, like I tell people, like, here's the tests, and they're like, oh my gosh, what? You can fake transactions and fake Ethereum and fake NFTs and do all these stuffs on op rollups. And I warned Coinbase for years, and then what happened? Oh, all the scams went to base, like I said would happen, and they started having all these problems with base. And then what does Coinbase come out like 3 months, a quarter or so ago? We're not using op rollups anymore. Surprise! So I guess they read my tweets. Good job, Brian. Good job. I'm glad you caught up. So if you are going to be doing these L2s, they have to be done with zero knowledge proofs, right? Because people will just fake transactions, and once they get posted to the L1, then people then can extract from the L1, right? Things they didn't actually claim to have, and now they're taking, whether it's a stable coin from that liquidity pool or they're taking ETH from that liquidity pool that isn't theirs, and then they're cashing it out. And then you're like, wait, that was my Ethereum. Oh, it was your Ethereum. And these kind of things don't happen on proof of work protocols nearly as much because everything is backed by energy. And that's why it's so important that we have the connection from the physical world to the digital world, right? That is the most important connection between the two worlds. And as soon as we go to a proof of work model, it's only a matter of time that we don't have those two universes touching, and the gap widens and your smart contract breaks, and then, oh, your 10 ETH are lost.
You mean proof of stake?
Yeah, proof of stake. Sorry, because when they were proof of work, I fully believed in Ethereum. I literally was paid for Ethereum cloud mining. That's how much I used to believe in Ethereum. So I'm sorry, Vitalik. Like, you could have figured it out, man. He could have figured it out. Literally, Vitalik could have figured it out in the early days, like Charlie did. And now LitVM is about to roll out, and good things is we'll have NFTs on Litecoin. Bad thing is, guess where all the scams are going? Litecoin. I'm sorry to say, but Litecoin will go because of that. But the cool thing is MWeb, right? I don't know how many times I've said this. You cannot build payroll on Ethereum. You cannot build because it's not trustworthy over long time frames. And payroll processing applications and software has to be work over long time frames because that's how people work. It has to be done on Litecoin because privacy, right? And you can't do it on Monero because Monero doesn't have these capabilities to build smart contracts on it, and that would just mess with Monero's L1, I think, too much at so many levels. Let's not even get into that. But LitVM will allow people to build applications that will interconnect with MWeb, and then you can use MWeb dollars like you use stable coins, but it solves the fungibility program, right? A problem, right? So it's like, let's say you have a business and you built an app and you accept MWeb dollars. Well, it's like me handing you that cash, right? Where you don't know where it came from technically, and that's none of your business, and you just can accept it, and it's totally private. It's just like me handing you a 20 euro a euro bill.
So Litecoin also has a stable coin attached to it, or?
Well, it's just called an MWeb dollar, and at the same time, it will lead to Tether moving to the Litecoin network, right? And there will be USDT. I don't know if it will be called LTVM or whatever. Have some weird ass name. But once I see Tether start running on Litecoin, that's a big signal that we're going to see Litecoin go like this, because the last time, you know, Tether started minting on another network is the Tron network because of all of these, you know, Chinese traders and Iran. Uh, but the last time they minted, I think we talked about this on the last show, was like, it was, no, I talked about this on last week's space. I don't think we talked on the show. Tether did a big mint. I think it was July 6th or 9th, somewhere in there, $1 billion Tron network. I was like, what? So that's also a clear indicator that we're about to see a pump in Bitcoin, because people realize if you're really into technicals, I mean, we showed that one chart from last show where it's a perfect cup and handle, right? We're just waiting literally for
And then-
another bull flag to complete, and it's off to the races, whether that's October, November, December, I'm not sure. But go ahead, sorry.
You also mentioned sort of the interest rates, right? And the rise of the dollar, right?
Oh
With-
yeah, yeah. I had that tweet. Good thing. Thank
Yeah.
you for perfect segue.
Because with Hormuz
oh.
basically closed again and liquidity conditions becoming critical, right? At some point, they do have to start printing, right? I mean,
Well, yeah, it's right here. Let's I have that tweet. It is boom, boom, boom. And I said, you know, on the show multiple times, I know that, you know, this war is about tackling, you know,
I mean,
Iran's potential.
the Japanese yen also doesn't look very healthy.
Oh yeah, again, so a lot of this war is been to protect the dollar, and this is just another chart that supports this theory, right? Where they literally, what did they do? They suspended Iran's ability to sell oil last week, I think it was. And again, all of this is to protect the dollar. And I said, yes, short term, it will be painful because we're going to see oil pump, right? And that hurts people at the pump. And then I said, next thing we'll see is the bond market will pump, and that's good for bond traders. But what happens after we see bond markets pump like this? After a few weeks, quarters, maybe a couple quarters, the bond market flattens, right? The curve flattens. And then what happens? Equities dump, right? But I think a lot of that money after the equities dump period, whenever that is, whether that's in the fall or it's in the new year, whatever, again, who's going to start absorbing all of that money? The cryptoverse. Obviously, mostly Bitcoin, because the most products and the most circles in its Venn diagram of ecosystems, right? So I always tell people, if you're looking to invest into a new crypto, how many circles are in that Venn diagram, right? We're about to get into Jimothy. Jimothy, I'm pretty sure there's just Solana and Jimothy, right? And that's where it's dangerous. So I do not advise investing in Jimothy. We're about to pull that thing up right now, and I'll call it thing because it's an anomaly. But this is straight from Lunar Crush. And yes, the algos have gotten fixed. I've seen people in my feed in the last couple of weeks that I've not seen for years. I haven't seen a Lunar Crush tweet in probably like a year and a half, 2 years, and boom, oh, there they are again. Some of my friends that were like my big time like Bitcoin and crypto friends, like I haven't seen them in years, and they're back in my feed. But yes, Jimothy with 3.12% of all social activity across the crypto in the most recent hour, and an average of almost 2.61% this week. It's insane. But as you can clearly see, when I see charts like this, run away, run away.
Follow
Right?
the raccoon.
Yeah.
Not financial advice.
Yes, do not start buying. You are the exit liquidity now, right? Just as before when I said this with the gold people, run away. You're at the top of the chart. Who was right? This guy. So these are the signals we've been seeing, right? Meme coin mania is coming back. Bitcoin pumped like almost 7-8K. Ethereum's pumped like 20-30%, I think, in the last 10 days. We're starting to see the markets come back to life slowly, and what you have to realize, the bears take advantage of that because they think, oh, that we're still in a bear market. I think we're in the early stages of coming out of the bear market, right? Have we hit the bottom according to that chart we analyzed from the last show? That's somewhere the first week of October. And then what do we see the other day? Peter Brandt, I think the bottom's in October. Yeah, just every other analyst in the universe has said this 2 weeks ago, bro. But thanks for your input. But we can see there's all of these technical, macro, fundamental indicators that show they're going to have to, yes, print more money. And Bitcoin doesn't care. I've said this since 2019. Bitcoin doesn't care if you tighten, if you do QT or QE. It loves when you mess with the markets because it sniffs out weakness in paper money. The only thing the dollar has going for it is, we've said this in the show before, is it's like Kraken. It's like the Kraken, right? Like it has tentacles in everyone's country. And that's why it has such a pervasive reach that it will be the last currency to ever hyperinflate, right? This is why we see it happen so many times in Zimbabwe, because Zimbabwe keeps their finger on the printer, right? They don't care. Like, and they don't understand. Oh, the United States does this. Yeah, the United States does this, but it's accepted globally. People want $100 bill more than any other currency, whether it's the euro, the French, the African French mark, or whatever that piece of crap is called, because that's what it is. Or go into the good old days of Argentina, where that Argentinian peso went bust, right? Their currency is a unilateral market, right?
Yeah.
That's why they can collapse like that. The dollar is not a unilateral market. So when people think the dollar's going to die tomorrow, I'm like, you need to read some more books, because it's in every ecosystem in the world. The only thing that can harm the dollar is when countries like China, and I'm looking at you, China, because you're the biggest one that does it. I know India tries, but they are not as technically advanced, is when countries print their fake ass almost identical $100 bills. And the Treasury Department tries to stay on top of this, but with modern printers and modern presses and AI, it can make some really good phony $100 bills out there. So that's why I tell people it's another reason why Bitcoin is superior to paper money. You cannot make fake Bitcoin. Yeah, you cannot dilute Bitcoin, right? Just like this is why it's superior to gold. There's no 16 karat Bitcoin, right? Maybe that's B trash. There's only Bitcoin, right? There's no 24 karat, 14 karat, etc. Blah 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 blah. That's another reason it's far superior, and you can't forge it out of nothing, right? Because people have tried and failed many, many times. They want to call it something else. They want to call it B trash. They want to call it Bitcoin, ABC, CBH, BTC, gold, whatever you want to call it. There's only one Bitcoin. We all know it. So this BIP protocol, in my opinion, whether it gets passed or not, I think if you listen carefully to the elder gentleman who's been running a node for many years, if all the nodes are in concurrence, it's only going to no old transactions are going to be left out of this equation, right? So people putting the fear, where I think Dante was being a little, over the top at the beginning, you dial it back a little bit and listen to what the elder statesman was saying, right? Where nobody's Satoshis are going to be lost if this protocol, this improvement protocol gets passed, right? And eventually it's a sunset protocol, improvement protocol, right? It also will only run for 1 year. So it's like, okay, it ends in 12 months. So this whole idea that it's going to create this mega soft fork, blah, 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 and it's going to be like a be trash moment. I don't think so. I just don't see that happening. I think if it does pass, it runs for a year and then it drops off, and it's like, why even do it then, right?
Yeah.
You're literally you're going to limit some of the serious spammers for 12 months, and what you think that's going to stop them there? They're literally just going to mark it on their calendar. It ends here, right? Like, I'm just telling you, this is how people think, right? They're just going to program it into their phone. What's 366 days? Okay, I'll be back. So it's like, whatever. I don't think it destroys Bitcoin, right? I think it's just hype, confusing people, and when I see hype and confusion, it's just FUD, right? Fear, uncertainty, doubt. And when I hear FUD, whether it's technical FUD from the Bitcoin maxis and core developers, or whether it's from people who don't even understand what they're talking about in crypto, like the $1,000 XRP people. I saw this guy make this video where he broke it down. He's like, here's the price of it. Here's the price of XRP right now. It's like $1.08 or something like that.
Yeah.
He's like, here's the market cap. It's like almost $70 billion. And he's like, he does the math, and I'm like, thank you, bro. I was like, thank you so much. But he's like, for XRP to get to $1,000, they would have to 922x, and then he's like, he took the market cap and times that, it was like 60 some trillion dollars. I was like, yeah. He's like, come on now, do you see why that's crazy? And I was like, so any one of these people that think it's going to $1,000, it's not happening. Right? It's not getting to 500. The highest I think it could ever get is somewhere from like $25 to $55, right? And maybe in like some insane universe, parallel dimension, it gets to like $80. That's it. That's still a lot,
Yeah.
but
Oh,
it's
yeah.
never getting to
It would make most people very happy.
589. It's never getting to 1,000. It's not getting to the 589 magic number. And again, some crazy, insane parallel dimension, it gets close to 100. That's it. That's because Brad Garlinghouse and team are like, and they can't push the button because they're in panic mode, because they're making like literally billions of dollars a second, and they're like, if we sell now, we could potentially lose this much money. And that's the only way that it gets close to 100, is that all the people on the board that have these mega bags are so greedy that they can't hit the sell button that they're so used to hitting every time it does a 20% pump. Oh, speaking of which, I have to share, since we're making fun of XRP, sorry, XRP army, I'm not trying to like kick stomp you into the curb or anything, like, right? I'm just trying to make you a realist, right? And this is what we're here to do. We're here to show you the math and truth, right? But this one is to strictly make fun of you. So I'm just throwing that out there right now, because this is hilarious. And sorry, Jan, because I know you're a big XRP fan. But this is hilarious. Where is it? Oh my gosh. Because I think even Bitlord liked my response. Yeah. So Bitlord shared this the other day, and I just watched it like 3 times, and just every time I like laughed. And the funniest part about this clip before we roll it is this lady thinks she did something, by the way. Just saying. But go ahead.
I'm gonna pull it up.
So the header, you got to read the header, though, because it's important. The XRP pump this week.
Okay, here we go.
She's going for 145 kilos on this occasion to solidify that position on the...
Start. Rack.
Oh man. Yeah, that's usually what it's like. And that's the problem, right? So let's say it went to $2, right? So we can just do basic math on a $2 XRP, right? And this is pretty easy. Right now it's at 70 billion, it's like 69, somewhere in there. Let's just round up to 70. So for it to go to two, it has to go to $140 billion market cap, right?
Yeah.
That's a lot of money, yo, just to get to $2. And you think it's going to hit 589 or 1,000? No, it's not. It doesn't have enough financial tools and assets that like Bitcoin does, right? The energy companies don't give an ish about XRP, right?
Real world assets. Real
Yeah.
world assets.
Real world assets, real world assets. Yeah, the real world asset is called Bitcoin. It's called Litecoin. Even Dogecoin's more of a real world asset. Even Ravencoin, because they use proof of work mining, they're connected to the real world and thus a virtual real world asset. Anything that runs on these funky DPoS pseudo BS protocols, again, I've seen it time and time and time and time and time again. XLM, XRP, uh, EOS. We've talked about the EOS dilemma multitude of times, right? Where EOS, the RAM got too expensive, and then the 21 block producers ran out of money, right? One or two of the block producers will start running thin on funds because they can't produce the blocks anymore. And then what they do, they'd be like, oh, we'll find a new guy. You're the new block producer. And then that guy would run out of money and they'd find somebody else. It doesn't work, right? And that's just one example. And I've brought it up thousands of examples from L2 down to L1, right? Proof of work is where you have to be. Stop wasting your time and effort. But then people say like, oh, I can put like $1 million in this DeFi protocol and make all this extra money. It's like, yes, you can, until that smart contract breaks and then you lose all your money and then you want to go jump off a bridge. And don't do that, by the way, right? Jesus loves you. Don't do that, because money's not everything, right? That's the first thing. I've lost, right? When Celsius went under, I lost somewhere when that year the bull market was going. I showed my account to my dad a couple of times. He was like, wasn't that like $30,000 a couple of years ago? I was like, yeah, now it's almost $1 million. So I tell people I've lost that kind of money, right? And I didn't have like thank the Lord, like one of these depressive moments and done something dumb. I took it as a learning moment from God, right? God's like, you weren't ready yet. Give me that. And I've learned a lot from that. But at the same time, again, don't always put all your eggs into one basket, right? Like, even though I'm a pseudo Bitcoin maxi, kind of, I guess you would call me, don't put all your whole war chest into Bitcoin, right? Just like I wouldn't put my whole war chest into Litecoin. Don't do that, especially with something that has like zero liquidity, like a Jimothy, right? Did you pull that one up? Did we talk about Jimothy? Oh yeah, we did. We showed the chart.
Yeah, we did. Yeah,
we're on the other side of the Mount Everest peak, right? Like, this is charting 101. You see this chart go up like this? Oh, it's coming down at some point. That's charting 101. If you see a huge peak, there's a valley on the other side. That's charting 101 basics. So you can look at that Jimothy chart and you're like, I'm all in. No. Pump the brakes. No. That $10,000 you just got for your graduation? No. Do not do it. I would say even Bitcoin, don't put that 10K into it. Put like a couple K. Buy, right? We've said this many times. The most easiest, simple investment strategy. I made it literally a 5-year-old can understand this investment strategy. Bitcoin's red, don't buy. Bitcoin's green, buy. Bitcoin's red, don't buy. Bitcoin's green, buy. It's that simple. And you keep doing that. And that's called buying the dips, right?
Yeah.
And once you figure that out, your buying power becomes exaggerated, right? You're stretching those dollars out, whether specifically when you're buying in those lulls of the waves, right? If you're buying at the troughs and the peaks of those waves, you're shrinking your buying power, right? I hope that made sense. I know you get that. And that's the other thing. If you want to spend Satoshis and help local businesses, show them it's like, look, Square is going to convert these to dollars. You don't want dollars, right? You want the Satoshis. Show them how to save in Satoshis, right? Or to totally subvert the Square payment system for Bitcoin transaction, right? Show them how to download their own Aqua wallet, right? You could take your own payments directly, and then you're just paying Aqua a couple Satoshis per transaction. I think it's free for the first year for Square. I don't know what it is after the first year. So teach everyone how to fish, right? And we'll have way more people, because the more people that hold Bitcoin, the safer it becomes, right? And I just came to this new theory the other day. Two things. One is that AI is about to super pump crypto because it makes it so easy. Add an API key to Coinbase. Okay, give me your account. Done.
Yeah.
Right? So anybody can accept crypto with AI now. There's no excuse that you have where like, oh, I got to hire a dev to put the API key in and embed it into my site and blah. No excuse now. You have AI, right? There's no excuse, right? We were talking about this in pre-meeting show too. Don't share your ideas with anyone now, right? Because great ideas, that's the other theory. Great ideas are now becoming not a dime a dozen. Great ideas are becoming priceless commodities. So if you're like on the subway and you're like, I came up with this great idea, oh my gosh, and you're screaming at the top of your lungs, the guy in the corner that looks like he's on his earbuds is opening up the app I talked about, Replit, right? And he's literally prompting everything you're saying. He's not even typing. He's just hitting, go ahead, keep talking. Enter. He's just made your app or built your website and is in 5 days accepting money. Literally.
I also
not joking.
I saw this really cool clip. It's not a long clip, but like 16 minutes or something. I'll put it underneath the video, which was about it was about gold, but it was sort of why gold is not going higher. But he made a really interesting point, because he said basically something similar to what you're saying, is that a lot of these boomers, but successful boomers, like old people who build businesses and who have a lot of great ideas, but they're old and they're not very technical. Now with AI, with these apps, all these people who ran successful businesses but are not technical, but have all these ideas throughout their lives, like what if I could have built that? All these old people are now gonna program the shit out of
Yeah, my sister, like me and my sister, like, and when my uncle passed away, she called me
and
to
they're
tell me.
loaded, right? So they're gonna buy, it doesn't matter how much it costs.
Yeah, so she's telling me this idea, or she's not even telling me this idea. She's just telling me this dilemma she has, where, because I'm not going to say the idea because I don't know if she's going to build it or not. But she's saying this to me like, oh, I have to do this, and, with your nephew and dad. And I was like, you just came up with a great business idea. Yeah, there it is. And I said, you literally just came up with $1 billion company. And she's like, what? And I was like, here. I sent her that. And I said, tell it exactly what I told you, and it'll build it for you. And she's like, what? And I was like, yeah, that's an amazing idea. I didn't tell her, like, don't share your ideas with her. She wasn't even sharing my idea. She just was, what she was doing. I was like, you just created a new business. And she was like, what? And I was like, yeah, think about it. And she was like, whoa. And I was like, build an app, build subscription levels for it, right? In the higher end services, you better monitoring, da da da. And she was like, oh my gosh. And I was like, yeah. So good ideas are priceless, becoming very valuable, because in the age of AI slop, which this show predicted, user generated content is becoming very valuable, because AI slop becomes ubiquitous and it has a look, right? It just does. Every AI picture you see now has a look. It's getting better and better. But as it gets better, our detection abilities get better and better, right? Like, I'm looking at pictures at my work of like some of our furniture, and I'm like, this is AI generated. I can tell. It's really good, but I can still tell by shadows, by the way it sits on things, right? It doesn't even look like it's a bed sitting in a room. It just looks like a picture, right?
Floating.
It's floating.
floating.
Exactly. Like all these little things. Like I think I told you, when you're watching AI videos now, look for a man's Adam apple movement, right? Like if you don't see that, come on. Or like just little things. Like I saw this like AI movie where these guys are in these like high-tech jets, and the guy's got like almost like a steering wheel to like an F1 in there. I'm like, no AI, you botched that one. It would always, especially when the more, if you understand like fly by wire, like aeronautics, like those ships that are out in space, they fly even more by wire, right? Like, so it's not going to be something like a steering wheel. It's like come on, AI, come on. Anyway, just those little things that AI can't pick up. Like I saw another one the other day where someone tried to fake it on TikTok. Like, this is a real video of it was a new like autonomous semi driving down this highway somewhere in like Alaska or somewhere, and the trees as it went by were all perfect conifers, right? And I was like, yeah, dude, AI, the trees are too perfect. Nice try, though. But it looked really good. But as AI gets better, I think our detection skills get better. And that's why these ideas become priceless, and real user-generated content becomes more and more precious and desirable, because people, even though there's a huge subsection of the world that doesn't give a crap that AI made this content, there is, I would say, a huge group of people that want real stuff. And that's why I'm like, I continue to make content on multiple platforms of different types, because it's real stuff, right? I make Catholic content on TikTok. I make Bitcoin and crypto content here. I just got a Twitch account maybe like a month or so ago, and on there I play video games, right? So as we go forward in the future, people that know how to make real good content, it's just going to take off at some point, because the algos, once they start to sniff out the AI slop, right, and the algo's told to promote real human stuff again, like that's coming, right? We all can see that that's coming, that all of the social media protocols at some point are going to be like, there's too much fake content, right? And we just saw, not even like 2 weeks ago, the dead net theory is playing out right before our eyes, right? There's more bots than humans on Web 2.0. Well, another thing to why this not to have spam on the networks, on the new Web 3 networks, is because what's it do? It just creates fake users, fake content, fake. And it it's just garbage. And literally, this is why proof of work networks is superior. It will thin out that spam and garbage, right? Even though it'll still figure out its way onto the protocol, it's not going to be like Ethereum, where everyone and their grandmom can make spam, or it's more like Solana, because before Solana, we had what, 20,000 coins, maybe 30,000, and now we have like 2 million. So these proof of stake networks literally project spam, right? Their whole thesis and their whole working model is spam central, right? Because the transactions are cheaper, they're easy to push this garbage, and it doesn't cost the scammer as much money. So, and to build a token on Solana, it's like a couple $100, right? A couple $100, and click. I minted some BS, and now there's another million coins. What about Gemini?
Oh yeah, one of the spam coins.
Oh, I didn't know if you're talking about the exchange or a spam
Oh
coin.
no, sorry. What's it? I forgot. Yeah, Jimothy. Sorry, Jimothy.
Oh, Jimothy. Yeah, exactly. Jimothy. Exactly. And just be careful if you are investing into these Jimothys, right? It's not your life savings. It's not a ton of money, right? And you're comfortable. If it is a couple $1,000s, if it goes to zero, you're comfortable with that, right? That's where you have to be with your risk management. If you're not comfortable with losing a couple $1,000s, you need to reduce your risk, right? A lot. Because I've lost multiple thousands of dollars. And I tell people, now I don't farm out that risk, right? I take on that risk. And then if it goes south, I'm to blame, not some third party company. That this is why, we talked on the show, all these banks are about to say, we'll hold your Bitcoin for you. No, don't do it. That's how I lost almost all of my crypto. So don't do it when Morgan Stanley and JP Morgan and Chase and all these big banks, Bank of America, US Bank, PNC, all of them are going to say, we'll hold your Bitcoin. No. The only time you should do it is it's some type of multi-sig deal where you get at least two of the keys and the third party has one. That's it, in my opinion. Because at least they can't dip into your funds anytime they want, right? Because if they hold the keys to your wallets, it's not your funds, right? It's just like Robinhood and all these other E-Trade. It's technically their money until you close out, and if they let you close out, right? Because how many times we saw where Wall Street is getting gamed by the small guys, like Wall Street bets, and they're like, "Oh, we can shut down these markets." That's why people in those markets realize, "Oh, I need to get to Bitcoin," because they can't do that to Bitcoin. No, they can't. That's the most beautiful thing. Even though Coinbase can shut down for 10 minutes or whatever, they can't stop all the other transactions in the world, right?
No.
They can just stop the transactions coming through them. That's all they can do. And guess what? They don't even run the most volume anymore. It's Binance, right? Binance has been king for many, many, many moons. Oh, and big news. Since we're talking exchanges, I just heard BitMEX is going out of business. Holy moly. Yeah, I didn't think I would ever hear that news. I'm sure, what's his name?
What's Arthur?
Arthur Hayes has a
Arthur,
tear coming down his cheek right now, because he would have kept that thing running forever. I'm pretty sure if he didn't get in trouble with the law. But it is what it is. It's an end of an era. But now we can see it's probably all of those people, just a theory, are going to start working for JP Morgan, Chase, Bank of America, HSBC, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. That's probably what's going on. And they're going to show them, this is how you do Bitcoin futures and perpetuals. And stay away from that crap, right? I don't know how many times I got to tell people, stay away from them. If you don't know what you're doing, do not be betting your Bitcoin. That's what dollars are for, right? If you're going to do it with Tether, do it with USDC. Don't do it with your Bitcoin. You're trying to save away for your retirement, your rainy day, et cetera, et cetera. Save your Bitcoin.
I think I saw a chart somewhere that Bitcoiners care most about self-custody. I think it was about yield. Do Bitcoiners care about yield? And then, of course, they do care about yield, but only if they can also self-custody at the same time, right? So, I think that was also connected to Jack Mallers, but I'm not sure about that. But
oh yeah, and getting back to spending the Bitcoin, right? If you are going to be spending some sats, you want to be doing it when Bitcoin is on the top, right? Like then you're spending way less sats per transaction, right? People always want to do the opposite. Let's sell my Bitcoin when it's down in the dumps, or let's spend my Bitcoin when it's down in the dumps. No, because now you got to use more Satoshis, right? You're losing. You're losing. No, don't ever do that. I know people just I have to. No, you don't. You got to learn self-restraint, right? And the best thing for that is you have, what's up, Krev 23? the best thing you could do is have a yeah, I know. It's kind of funny. I don't buy anything from them anymore. I use Kraken, and I've had way less problems with Kraken ever since I became a Kraken user. I bought several, I want a handful of Litecoin over the last couple years through them. And when I need to exit my Litecoin, it's in my wallet in 10 minutes. So I know they have the funds, and they're not as quick to add the newest scam coin. They wait like an extra week, right? Versus Coinbase and Binance and crypto.com. Like they're all always over the newest, hottest token. So Kraken is a little less scammy in that respect. They wait like 2 more weeks before they add Jimothy. Watch, it's probably already up because it's such a big coin. But yeah, I trust Kraken more than I trust Coinbase these days. That's just my own personal take. I don't get any money from them, but that's just the experience I've had. I rarely use Coinbase. I think I've used them once, maybe in the last 12 months. And just is what it is. The D shift is live now.
I can do an announcement because since Kref is here in the audience anyway. So Kref will be doing a show on Saturdays on Bitcoin Live.
Nice. Congrats, bro.
D shift. So I think he's sort of not exactly pro Bitcoin, but he's gonna focus more on altcoins and that kind of stuff. But it will be a different kind of vibe. So on
hey,
Saturday,
you know me, dude. I don't hate on altcoins. I just speak the truth, right? I just tell people like.
But I do believe he's a Litecoin fan, so you
Yeah, I mean, look, it's only a matter of time, right? Like where I tell people, you have lit VM, we have two brick walls we're approaching, right? Where one is if you want crypto to be ubiquitous, like in every payment circle, in every like interaction you do, it has to enter into the payroll market, right? And we discussed this earlier, right? It can't be done with Bitcoin because it's too pseudo anonymous, and it can't be done with Ethereum because it's not trustworthy over long time frames. I know you can. People swear they can make bulletproof smart contracts, but I've been told that time and time again, and I've seen them break. So what's the solution? You have to have a proof of network that has some kind of privacy, right? Some veil, but at the same time, be decentralized, be public, right? It can't have this private pseudo privacy network like XRP claims, right? I always tell people as soon as you make this privacy layer in any crypto protocol, that will be gamed, right? Someone will figure out access to that data, access to that information, just like the EVM MEV problem, right? Where people will figure out how to extract value, just like we showed that very crude example where somebody exploits the L2 OP rollup exploit where they plant a fake transaction into the L1 and then extract either Ethereum or USDC from a liquidity pool that technically wasn't theirs, but they have every authority to do it because that transaction's been signed and in a block right on Ethereum now, and it's a fake transaction. Nope. That's why I don't use Ethereum anymore. No thanks. And until I hear Ethereum's gone to 100% ZK rollups, it's not safe to build something that you want to build a foundation on, right? Bitcoin, solid foundation. Litecoin, solid foundation. Even though, like I said, it'd probably be problematic to build ancillary products on XMR, solid foundation.
Decred.
Yeah, Decred, solid foundation. Even Dogecoin, even though it's a pain in the butt to sync the node,
I also like Digibyte, but I know you're a little bit.
Yeah, I'm not anti-Digibyte. It's just it's trying to be too many things at once, which kind of leads to it's not being a great contender, in my opinion. I think Decred has a better shot than Digibyte just because it's what is it? It's like a quad. Yeah,
It has four
four. Yeah, four types of consensus. And again, even though it would be very weird, an attack can be done on one of those consensus algorithms, and eventually that attack would lead to a problem with the other three. And again, it would very rare. And there is a couple other things that I have problems with Digibyte.
They have five algorithms. Yeah.
See, five. Yeah, and again, why do you need all those algorithms? You don't, right? It's over. As soon as we get over complicated, just like Ethereum's getting now, where it's too complicated, where everything's on L2s. Now we have silos on L2s of all this data. And how do we get it back? Oh, now we got to bridge it back. Oh, great. Yeah, that sounds like a great plan.
But
it's
for the people watching, give D-Shift a follow.
Oh, yeah. Follow D-Shift. His shows are going to be on Saturdays. And again, I don't hate on altcoins. I don't hate on altcoins. You know what I mean? Like, I tell people I have a whole bunch stills in all these dumb wallets all over the place. I just tell people stick with Bitcoin first, then expand out, right? What, you're saying he's live?
Yeah, but he's so he has his own channel on Twitch. So he has been running shows on Twitch forever. He's actually a crypto OG. He goes back a long time. He was actually, if I understood him correct, one of the first people who ever interviewed John McAfee.
Oh wow, cool!
For like 2
cool
hours.
Stuff.
Or something.
That's what's up.
But he's gonna branch out on Bitcoin Live and on Twitter and on some other places where we air. So he will reach hopefully a bigger audience, and that's sort of the idea. And we get a cool new show. So follow him on Twitch, and then soon follow him also on X. And
there you go. Check him out. Yeah, and he was right. Complexity is an adoption killer, right? So when you have something that's uber complex, it has problems. You know, if you have all those algos, then you have you have all these different types of people that can build. So you're opening up your attack vector, right? If you have all these algos that you think it makes it more secure, well, technically you're making it more susceptible to an attack at some point in the future. That's just my own take. And then I've peeked at the code a little bit.
Douglas 3D changed perspectives. I think it was also his biggest critique on Digibyte.
Yeah, it's very similar, right? It makes it another attack vector. And again, I'm glad they are, but if Digibyte wants to become really powerful, just go to a proof of work, right? Like you can pick, there's like the SHA, right? There's SHA, what is it? SHA-1, I think it's quantum resistant.
I think they also have the SHA-256 actually as one of
the... I mean, and I guess, you know, they kind of want to be compatible with all these other networks, and they eventually want to be like an omni chain or something like that. But again, the more complex it gets, the more pain of a butt it comes eventually in the future, and for adoption, etc. And that's why, like I said, I think all of these proof of work networks, they succeed long term. If it's too big of a pain in the ass, people bail. Yeah, exactly. That's exactly correct. 1,000%. This is why there's some people that love Ethereum, but the basic layperson that's like tries to use Ethereum, they're like, what the heck? Even my friend in Philly, who's been an Ethereum head for years, when she bridged a whole bunch of stuff onto Polygon, she wanted to get her dollars back, and she forgot, like, she has to unbridge the Polygon dollars and then send them back to the L1. And she's like, what? This is stupid. I was like, hey, this is why I don't F with Ethereum as much anymore. Because it's just a pain in the ass. And the other thing, when I was first became an ETH head, right, you always had to have some Ethereum in your wallet if you wanted to do a transaction, right? You always have to have some gas or you can't do something. And the devs building wallets knew they could make like Ethereum feeless wallets. They just have to take a sliver off, but they didn't want to do that. There are some wallets that do this, but they're few and far between. So you always, It's one of my unspoken rules of money. It's not only with Bitcoin, it's crypto. Oh yeah. And again, you don't have these problems with proof of work protocols where I can send one Bitcoin to another person. I can send one whole Bitcoin and I don't have to, as long as the fees aren't insane, they're going to get that whole Bitcoin, right? And the same thing is true with Litecoin. If I send somebody a Litecoin, they're getting literally, it's not going to be like 0.99, it's going to be like 0.999997865 or something. You know what I mean? It's literally going to be a whole Litecoin. You do that with Ethereum, no, you're not getting a whole Ethereum, right? You're getting like, oh, it's now it's 0.6, 0.69, 0.72, 0.77. Oh, awesome. Great. So this is what people don't realize. It's like, it's great until you do a major transaction. And then you're like, this sucks. This totally effing sucks. Yes, it does. And then I've said time and time again, I love Solana. Solana's great until Solana breaks. And then I need to do a Solana transaction and then Solana sucks, right? So you don't want your protocols to be part-time, monetary networks, right? That's the worst thing about proof of stake networks that are, you don't see that as much with Ethereum anymore, thank the Lord. But we still see it with Solana, right? We still see it with these other proof of stake networks. Sorry, we're down right now. Oh, okay, great, awesome. Won't be back. Once you're up, I'll be removing all my funds. Thanks. Because that's the way I think, right? I'm not, you can't get pie in the sky thinking with these new protocols. And people do all the time, right? Where are the people that were all about Richard Hart's whatever garbage she was running for the week, right? Oh yeah, Hex. Yeah, how's the new Hex smart contract protocol doing? Oh, I'm sure it's doing great. But again, you're just falling for somebody else's bull crap. Because again, who's buying all the expensive stuff? Richard Hart. Who's at Louis Vuitton buying new stuff he doesn't need? Richard Hart. Who's buying new watches he doesn't need? Richard Hart. So you can say he doesn't do all this crap, but I see him doing all this crap, right? Sorry, didn't mean to cut you off.
No problem. We should wrap it up.
I know it's been a long one. Sorry, but I think we're going close to almost 2 hours.
Yeah, it was a good show.
Yeah, it was a great show. And again, stick to proof of work protocols. If you're serious about getting to crypto, you'll thank me long term because these proof of stake networks, they become complicated. They become this pie in the sky thinking like, oh, if I just put like $10,000 and I lock it into their network, I'm going to be rich in just 2 years. You're not. It's not going to happen. It's these huge market makers that come in and they put in like $1 million worth of that coin into that liquidity pool, and they make all the money, and then they come back to the pool when the token has gone up and they scoop up all the Solana or they scoop up all the Ethereum, and then you come back 2 days later, oh my gosh, wait, I'm going to take all this Solana, and they're like, oh, sorry, there's no Solana left in this liquidity pool. You're going to lose all this money if you try and do an exchange right now, and that's called a ghost bag. We talked about that years back. But yeah, this is why steer clear of that crap. Anyway, have a great one. Thanks to all our sponsors, Shieldfolio, Quantum Expeditions, Deorganized Media, and everyone at the team at Bitcoin Live. And have a great one. Peace.
Take care. Bye-bye.